So the Indy 500 favorite, the 2016 winner, starting 32nd. I know they had some issues on qualifying day last week, but I would think Rossi should make his way up through the field. Those Andretti Autosport cars are always so strong here. Rossi should be able to make his way up. Just very strange to see him that far back. And Jack Harvey in the Meyer-Shank racing car, along with an SPM alliance there. Harvey, to me, is just not very good at this racetrack. I think he's really struggled here. He struggled last year really quite a bit. It seemed like he could never really get the car under him, and struggled to. It wasn't really a speed thing; it was a balance. He just could not get the handling of that car, and I think we'll see the same issues on Sunday. He does have a little bit more experience now, but I wouldn't expect too much out of Jack Harvey this weekend.
Matthew Embry, our official IndyCar contributor. Matthew, I don't think that there's any surprises in row 11 except for Alexander Rossi being that far back. Matthew, what are your thoughts, row 11?
Well, Rossi is the guy to watch. I'll be very curious to see if they get an early yellow, if he stays out, tries to advance his position, et cetera, to try to get himself back into play. And it's interesting that the two amazing race participants are back there. It's been a 5-alarm fire pretty much all month for Connor Daly. I think there's been a disagreement in seeing eye-to-eye things. Connor's want to do things one way. Tom Burns and Dale Quinn want to do it another way, and I think it's really a lot of animosities built from them throughout the month. And eerie factor with Jack Harvey, I think the pickup that he had in qualifying to make the show just shows what would have happened if not for that tire vibration. I think James Hinchcliffe would have followed him into the show as well. And, tough break obviously for Hinch. And for Harvey, I think the big thing is he's hoping to just get to the finish at this point. He had an early exit. He was involved in the Daly crash last year. So if Harvey can get to the finish, I think that would be a win for them, considering a team that's only running 6 races on the schedule this year.
Yeah, absolutely, and I tell you, we'll see what happens. As Tyson says, you can never outrule the Andretti. We move to row number 10. Jay Howard, Ed Jones, and Graham Rahal. I want to take a moment here just to applaud Graham Rahal and Rahal Legman Racing and what they're doing with United Rentals and the troops coming up on Memorial Day on Monday. Certainly, they support the troops very, very much. They do a thing with United Rentals. I think it's $30. But I could be wrong, for every lap completed by any RLL driver. They donate $30 to Turns for Troops, which is an organization, and they're very, very dedicated to supporting the troops. So hats off to Graham Rahal. Speaking of Graham Rahal, we'll start with you, Matt, in row 10. Speaking of Graham Rahal, kind of a surprise. I thought he might be in the middle of the pack somewhere, but really didn't think he'd be that far back. Matthew, Jay Howard, Ed Jones, and Graham Rahal, sorry.
You look at Rahal, and you wonder if Rahal Letterman Lanigan's overextending themselves, because the last time they ran 3 cars was 2013, the same year they failed to get Michel Jourdain Jr. into the field. So I wonder if 3's too many for this organization. I mean, Rahal's starting well back, Servia's starting well back. Sato's in a decent starting position, but I still don't think he's going to be a threat. Jay Howard, another guy with the Spitt Peterson team, they took a very conservative tack with him last Sunday in qualifying. That's why he's this far back. And then you look also with some of the other contenders back there. Ed Jones, huge surprise that he was way off the pace for Ganassi. Keep in mind, he qualified 11th with Dale Coyne last year and ran 3rd. So I tell you, a big disappointment for Jones to be this far back in the grid. But again, Graham Rahal did come in 2011 from the back of the pack to a contender late, so he can get up there. But unfortunately, of course, that was with Ganassi, so maybe that's a better omen for Jones as opposed to Rahal. But I think it's just a case right now where Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan has overextended themselves trying to run 3 cars, and maybe they don't have the stuff to be able to do it successfully.
Tyson, row number 10, Jay Howard, Ed Jones, Graham Rahal.
I think just kind of as Matt said, the resources may be getting stretched a little too thin for RLL Racing. Rahal, we thought he would have more speed this month, and he really hasn't. He's kind of been back here a lot, even on in practice sessions before qualifying and on bump day. He seemed to be in a really kind of precarious position, and he was able to make his way up and get in the field. But even on Sunday, it just wasn't a strong qualifying showing. He qualified 30th, and that's really not what you want in the Indy 500 as one of the quote-unquote big teams. But of these big teams, this is the small team, and they have stretched their resources really thin. They've got 3 cars with Serbia and his relationship with Scuderia Corsa, and then Takuma Sato. So they've got some ground to make up in the race, but I think they can do it. The advantage of starting back here is that you can rely on strategy to move to the front, kind of as Matt pointed out with Rossi. You know, if you get an early yellow, maybe you do something that the other leaders aren't. Ed Jones can fall into that category as well, because it is a surprise to see him this far back as well. He's driving for Chip Ganassi Racing, which is probably, you know, if not the best team, maybe the second best team in the series. And he finished 3rd in this race last year as a rookie, so you'd think he'd be a little bit more competitive, but it's just not there right now. Jay Howard, I think Scott Dixon probably wants him to stay away from him after last year, but he always runs well in his one-off events, as long as he can, you know, keep all 4 wheels on the ground and not get into an accident. I think he can run well, because I think this team, despite the issues that they had on bump day and in qualifying in general, this is a team that is good enough to run well.
So joining us also, just wanted to say hi to him and give him a big congratulations, our executive producer, rick-riggin. Rick, I know you've had some connection issues. That's okay, no big deal. We love you. Congratulations on having a daughter graduate high school. Man, doesn't that make you feel old?
Very, man. It's been crazy this week, been a busy week, and got the big graduation party today. So looking forward to all that. And sorry I'm late once again. 12 minutes late last week, 37 minutes late this week. So my plan to phase myself out is almost complete.
Well, we're just going to publicly shame you. Shame.
Oh,
no big deal. We appreciate it, Rick.
Nothing that a sauce factory on a laptop can't fix, I guess. So big props to my wife for doing that for me. So I'm here.
That's right. We're glad you finally got up out of bed. No, I'm just kidding. No, I know you've been very busy. It's been a very busy week, very busy month for that matter. So Rick is manning the war room on social media at the-balannce, and 917-889-8516 is our digits. Real quickly, Rick, any thoughts on this year's Indianapolis 500?
No, but just looking forward to RLL, the team, what they can do for Turns for Troops and what money that raises, because this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, we honor our fallen heroes that give us the who gave everything, who gave all for our freedom and country, and to allow us to have the Indy 500 and come on the show like the-balannce to talk about the big race. So, this honors our fallen heroes and also big current service members and our veterans. Big thank you for everything you do to allow us to be able to do what we do. So big thank you, and honor our fallen heroes. Thank a veteran this weekend if you've seen one. And, here at the-balannce, we are hashtag American AF. So we're veteran-owned and operated.
Yeah, baby.
Everything. So big thank you to our veterans.
American.
Honor our fallen heroes. That's what Memorial Day is all about. It's what this weekend is all about, your cookouts and everything. Just keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rick. And certainly we do support the troops here, and we've kind of latched on to RLL Racing because of what they're doing for the troops. So we've kind of made them our fan favorite. I wish we had figured out a way to get the balance on RLL car. No, I'm just kidding. Tyson, so we go into row number 9, I believe we're at. Zach Veach, Oreo Servio talking about RLL, and J.R. Hillebrand. J.R. Hillebrand really has not shaken that ghost. And I know a lot of people think it's something different, but he really just has not shaken that ghost where he almost won it a few years back, really coming in for the checkered flag, hits the wall. I mean, that's Indy. Again, as I said earlier, Indy picks no favorites, but I think it was just that event and that exposure that J.R. Hillebrand had. I don't think he's been able to shake it here in Indianapolis, and so certainly he's with Dreyer and Reinbold. But Zach Veach, again, Andretti Autosports. But, again, the two people that I see really being able to move up and do some damage in what I mean by damage is just to get some positions is what I'm trying to get at the Indianapolis 500 is Zach Veach and Oriol Servio. So we'll start with you, Tyson, row number 9.
Yeah, it's funny that how you talk about J.R. Hildebrand, and it's been 7 years since that accident. That happened in 2011, but that was his first Indy 500. That was his first, real exposure to Indianapolis in the Verizon IndyCar Series, and he was coming off of turn 4, and it seemed like he was going to win his first Indy 500 in his first attempt, and it all went away from him. And I think maybe you're right. It hasn't shaken off yet, and maybe it won't until he kind of gets to victory lane. But I don't see that being this year. I think, we talk about a team stretching their resources a little thin in Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing, and you could almost say the same about Dreyer and Reinbold. Obviously, they used to run full-time in the series. They've since downsized and really only run the Indy 500 each year with Sage Karam, and now they're running it with 2 cars. They got Karam and J.R. Hildebrand, and they haven't shown as much speed as they often do. Couple that with Hildebrand having a practice crash before qualifying last week. I think he was the first driver to actually crash during the month of May at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, so that's not a good omen either. I think Hildebrand's really going to struggle this weekend. I just don't think they have it. But moving on, Oriol Servia is, despite being with RLL and they've been struggling, he's probably one of the best drivers in the series to go out and just run 1 or 2 times a year and give it the best he's got. He had a great run going last year, if I remember correctly, and then got involved in one of those late crashes. If Servia can be up there at the end of the day, I think, we're not talking about a win for him, but I think we could see easily, Oriol Servia finish 7th, 8th, 9th, somewhere in that general area, because he's just a very talented driver, and he knows what he can do with the equipment. He doesn't stretch it. And even you look back at bump day, it seemed like this team was doomed. There was no way that they were going to make it in. An hour left in qualifying, and they were way behind the 8 ball, and they still managed to get Servia in the race. This is a team that can really compete, and they can fix their problems in a hurry. Zach Veach.
And I should put. Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I apologize. I just realized I did not point. I said Servio's with RLL, but he's also teamed up with Corsa Racing, and that's kind of a unique package that they put together. So I did not mean to exclude the owners of Oriol Servia in Corsa Racing as well. Go ahead.
Right. Zach Veach, moving on to him, this is a driver who is very talented, and he's shown that in his Indy Lights, and it kind of took him a little bit longer than I think a lot of people thought it would for him to move into IndyCar, but he is here now, and he's on a full-time scale. And if you kind of look at him, I don't know if we're going to get a Carlos Munoz type run from him where we see Munoz every year for some reason really take to this track, but I think Zach Veach has the potential to run really well this year. It's going to be, I believe, his second Indy 500 he ran with A.J. Foyt last year, which wasn't as good of an organization as they are now. They've really improved quite a bit. A.J. Foyt has, but now you got Veach with Andretti Autosport, which is one of the best teams at this racetrack. I think he has the potential to have a really strong weekend. With him, it's going to be letting the first maybe 100, 120 laps get through the race and just figure out your car, figure out what you need to do better. Veach is a young guy, a lot of inexperience, and sometimes young guys with a lot of inexperience, they make moves a little too quick. So if he can just, let the race come to him, I think Zach Veach could have a really strong day. I don't think we're talking about a win there, but again, kind of with Servia, maybe a top 10, top 15 performance.
We're talking with Tyson Lautenschlager of OnPitRoad.com. Matthew Embry, our official IndyCar contributor, our executive producer, rick-riggin, is in the war room. This is the field of 33. Matthew, we're in row number 9. Zach Veach, Oriol Servio, and J.R. Hildebrand. What say you?
The thing that I think is key, though, is keep in mind, Dreyer and Reinbold really never has valued qualifying all that much. They just worry about getting in the field and doing their damage on race day. So I think Hildebrand's going to be a factor. I really question, though, whether or not Servio or Veach can get there. And I think the big issue